Hello, Mary. Welcome back to Sacred Remembering.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. Yeah. So I want to give everyone a little bit of like a catch up since the last time you came onto the podcast, because some people, might just be listening to the podcast or also might follow us both on Facebook. But so at the turn of the year, I discovered Mary and invited her onto the podcast, and we did this New Year's episode about the new era of the golden dawn. I can't remember exactly what we called it, but and you were talking about the golden mother magnetic. And then, since then we've become friends. We're sharing on Telegram all the time. And we hosted a public ceremony together like a month ago in March. And um, I just wanted to lift that up and also just appreciate what we're doing and name what we're doing for those who are listening, is that as two women who are journeying our life's journey, and then the cycles of our lives kind of brought us into one another's fields. And you have a certain way of articulating things, and we could say certain codes, and I have a lot of questions and other ways of articulating things, and certain codes, and then we've come together and we share those. And it's almost like stating the obvious, but it's a new way of women being together that I wanted to articulate, because in the world, we've had a lot of examples of people building, we could say like bodies of knowledge or bodies of work, and then standing in those as some kind of expert, and just sharing from that. It's almost like a head knowledge based, like frequency. And what you and I are doing is like weaving and co-appreciating the contributions of one another, and allowing that to, it's like, we're mapping parts of the mystery, and we're mapping, it's like current events in the evolution of the planet and the evolution of the hearts, and the sovereignty of the feminine, and union. And so we're like discovering this, and through our own discoveries, stories, channelings, we're discovering like our thread or frequency of it and sharing it with one another. And then both of us understand more because of the sharing. And then there's also like lifting one another up. And, it's like, hey, check out what Mary's doing. Hey, check out what Sarah's doing. And this is just a new way of women being together that I just wanted to highlight, that this is I think it's a unique thing that you and I are doing, this like space beyond competition. Um,
Yeah.
this, so it's so good to be here with you here in March of
In that way,
2024.
especially in that energy that you talk of like the intelligence of cooperation, and the intelligence of harmony. It just makes everything, it makes the evolution, and makes what we're doing so much more easier because it's the correct way. So when people hold on to a position, and even if it took them 20 years of gathering information, like you say, and I understand that it's the same reason why people hold on to long relationships and things, because we've invested so much time in them. But sometimes, like, the truth can just be remembered like in a split second, and that's kind of what needs to be trusted more so than the body of whatever you've gathered. But it's like we are working with the one mind, so, and that's what it should be, because the mind is supposed to be unified. The consciousness is supposed to be unified. It's not supposed to be fragmented.
Right.
So that's why often we correlate lovely coincidences, or people start
Mhm.
saying the same words that haven't been said in a long, long time. People start using the same phrases together, even the same. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and three women have shared a similar image to what I saw overnight or something. So
Yeah.
it's the way for sure.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
that I've spent a lot of time, trying to it's like, do I have the information that I'm supposed to have? And am I articulated? It's almost like this imposed individualism that we buy into. And then, I remember in middle school, this girl had this pair of like Mary Janes that were like patent leather. I mean, they were so cool. And I was like, I want those. Like I want to be in that frequency also. And I bought the shoes and she got really mad about it. And I was like, but why can't we both celebrate that these are amazing shoes? Like I was like, why is it a competition about like who gets to wear the amazing shoes? I don't know why that just came up right now, but it's like that old competition of like you can only have, your ideas, your frequency, your PhD, your whatever. And then we just stand so fiercely in that. And,
Yeah.
where's the room for the mysticism and the feminine and the evolution when we're
Mm,
doing that? So
yeah,
it's good to be in this space with you.
absolutely. And every woman deserves good shoes. You know?
Yeah. Right. Uh,
It's the
it's such a
like bottom
metaphor.
line. It's
Yes,
true.
it's such
It's such a good one.
such a metaphor. Okay,
Yeah.
so today, so I had this plan to do a podcast about, how much women are orienting is what I these are my words I was using, like orienting toward men, masculine. I'll tell you a little bit about where that came from. And then in our conversations on Telegram, we start talking about this, and I thought, oh, this will be a much better conversation, if Mary joins me rather than me just rattling off into the microphone my ideas. So, so, we're like mid evolution, we're mid curiosity, and we're coming here today to share some, um, of our current observations from the heart, from the womb, from the
Yeah.
all of the interdimensional spaces that we travel. So I was prompted, by my intuition or whatever the voice, and to read my journals from the last 3 to 4 years around, the time that Heartland came in, and Heartland was really about like women's resourcefulness and how we were going to become, more resourced, and how the feminine depletion was going to heal. So, still living that journey, discovering like the earth grids, the gold frequency, all of this magic. And throughout these journals, which I think was a big reason why I was to reread them, was this grappling with this topic of provision and like how the resources came to me as a woman, and this overemphasis that I had, I'll say bought into, but also it feels like a massive overlay, like a massive veil on us all, that provision was supposed to come from men and masculine. So my whole life there was this like father centric way that I oriented myself, because this figure was supposedly, powerful and also in charge of the resources,
Yeah.
right? And then I, did a lot of work to kind of get free of that. But then there was also this period of time where I was traveling this journey of discovering sacred feminine, sacred masculine, appropriate polarity between them, these pretty common teachings at this point. And it was like I went through an era of, what is my sacred feminine supposed to be doing in order to receive divine love from a sacred masculine What is my feminine supposed to be doing in order to be resourced, in order to be, I'm using some of the words that we hear in like these sacred feminine, sacred masculine polarity spaces, in order to be safe, in order to be um, held is another word that we hear. And my feminine was not experiencing resourcefulness or
Yeah.
safety or like provision. But over and over again, I was deeply searching for this recipe that I was assuming like masculine resource security
Mhm.
provision. And then I was also simultaneously like really seeking to get out of that. It was
Mm.
like this period of trying to like behave in order to figure it out. And then also this realization that we're all buying into a false, like a false light, a false, yeah, false provision, false resourcefulness, false masculine.
Yeah.
Um, so I would love to talk with you about that and the intention, of course, as we're making this conversation public, is to hopefully put some words and some frequencies to something that I imagine more and more women are waking up to, and if not before, they are now, as we talk about it. And it doesn't feel good. The feminine
Yeah.
system has like been trying to figure out how to
Mm.
behave, how to be,
Yeah.
and how to plug in. But
Mm.
but it's like the wrong template altogether. Like it's like a false template altogether.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so we want to talk about that.
This is really interesting. It just brings up a topic that I kind of see it as central. It's like when you just said there, we've been trying to figure out how to plug in, like where to plug in. And that shows us it was the wrong consciousness, the wrong mind.
Yeah.
And this is where it brings me to the notion of a traumatized mind, this fractured mind
Yeah.
where we have been trying to adapt, maneuver, manipulate, whatever, interact with. And we, from that, when we see the amount of pain that causes for everyone within that,
Mm.
the answer to that is like, what is the true mind? What is the true consciousness that we are to plug into? The true source, the mind, what is the source mind that has the intelligence, has the ingredients that we need, the everything. So yeah, that just sounds like a lot of trauma management, what we've done. Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll try to articulate this, but you've actually helped me to reframe what this period of time, as I've been trying to sort out the remnants of the actual trauma and the trauma mind. There's no peacemaking. Like you're not going to find the resolution inside of that system. So I talk about kind of like having allowed so much of that to compost, but I still felt lost
Mm.
because, um, like this question of where do we orient?
Mm.
Because like even in spiritual circles, it's like women are told to orient to the masculine.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what is the other
Mm.
map? And you helped me to, I guess, conceptualize or
Yeah.
organize, the wisdom that what I have been doing in the last 2 years was saying no to
Mm.
that construct and going back into the earth going back into what you call the womb mind, and
Mm.
this like soil frequency, and this woman. Well, it's the return of the sovereign feminine energetics,
Yeah, yeah.
but it has felt so messy. But one of the things I just really appreciate about what you're bringing is like the womb mind organizes the
Yeah.
chaos. It's not like the feminine is just chaos. Like we're told,
Mm.
it's like this intelligence. It's a different intelligence than this one that we were um encouraged or like falsely like oriented toward. Like so I just imagine something like, orienting our bodies toward this like light and the story. And sometimes it's a religious story, or, like God is man, or those kinds of things. And
Yeah.
we're just like continually cleansing and washing free
Mm.
the remnants of those false projections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you think, the two sides of that, we were told, the light of man, whether that
Yeah.
is in religion or in relationships and even in homes, very often,
Right.
um, quite often, we are told that the man is to be really the informing voice of what goes on, the decision maker, the leader. But really, true, like that truly is told. And that's a strange phenomenon, to be honest, because
Yeah.
the mother within a home, everyone is of the mother. She has a piece of all of her children in her. So surely she is best informed to know what everyone needs within that circle, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
So, and that's just in the family unit. But then that extends obviously to everything. The sun in the center of the world, whether in religion or spiritual teachings. That's why the woman was the chaos, or considered the chaos and the disorder, because her own light was being denied. Her own, and light, truly, the word light means intelligence. It's like a DNA code. It's a code of intelligence. So the light of woman was denied. So when we were tied to the lunar program, which is the perfect partner to the false light of man program. And of course, men have a light. That's not what I mean, but it's the imbalance of that which creates the constant, the false center, incorrect center, and the chaotic the chaotic woman principle around that center.
Yeah. And when I feel into this concept of masculine as sun and woman as moon, first of all, it feels really yucky to me. Like there's just
Mm.
actually like a yuck feeling that arises. But there are no, I cannot feel any energetic organization in that. It's
Mhm.
just like distortion. It's almost like it feels to me like an idea without any energetic structure in creation, right?
Yes. Mhm. Completely.
Yeah,
You're so true, because where could you find that in nature? You couldn't find that dynamic in nature
right.
of it is literally a program for constant karmic creation, hell creation. That's all
Yeah.
it's for. A siphoning of the masculine light and a denial of the feminine light. Um, the true magnetics of our earth come from the core of the womb of Andromeda. So that is an independent source of light code information. Um, yeah, that's what I can say about the true magnet.
Yeah. And so I just want to ask if you want to say anything about, because so I had said to you, like, I want to do a podcast about this topic of like this false orientation toward the masculine.
Yeah.
And you said, it goes deeper than that. Like it's this orientation to a false light, or like
Yeah.
a false light at the center. Do you want to expand on that?
Sure. So I'm going to use just some imagery to get my point across. But if we were just talking about the crucifixion of Jesus, let's just use that as an example for how this program of this orientation around men, how this program really got into the consciousness. If you see at that crucifixion moment where Jesus is, nailed to a cross, as opposed to being the essence of the tree of life, which is what we are. So the lesson learned in that moment was because of his heart, because of his truth, he was nailed to this cross. He was taken out of the earth. His feet were taken out of the soil. And the depiction I always think of is either side of him, we have the two Marys, which is the mother being fractured, and that beautiful channel between the cosmic mother, which is that magnetic from Andromeda, and us, mothers on the earth. The fracturing of that channel took place. So that is the channel of the woman's light. And so they're codependent of each other. The fracturing of the woman's light depends on the sacrificial, salvational false light of man, and vice versa.
Mm.
So yeah, and so this is why we are resisting it, and the men are resisting it too, because they are finding themselves, and we are finding them in the middle of in a magnetic position that they're not supposed to be in. They're not supposed to be the center. Yeah,
Right.
and we are trying to create order around a false light. It's impossible. It has to be a perfectly balanced, unified light of the light of man and the light of woman within each one. That's what we can create perfect order around. It's like in the room. So a sperm and an egg both have a light code of information. Each one has light. And when they come together, this is when you have, this is like the child of light, right? The unified source. The unified source is the unification of the light of man and the light of woman. And that is what is, everything is ordered around that unified principle.
Right. And the Trinity of mother, father, child. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you were talking about that, and something about the masculine coming back into the earth, and it just really
Mm.
stuck with me. And I listened to the Madonna Secret this year. Sophie Strand, such a beautiful author, and it's a story of Mary Magdalene, like written, fictional, quote unquote, but like, these stories return. And Sophie Strand is an ecologist. And, so she talks about the earth all the time. And in the Madonna Secret, when Jesus was crucified, Yeshua was crucified, Mary Magdalene was so bothered by his body not being in the earth.
Mm.
So Sophie Strand's channeling it, it's like this return of this masculine, like into the soil. I was sharing with Mary that I was having a vision about this just last night, with this um, kind of essence of masculine that I feel close to. I was like tuning into it, and it was hovering above the planet, like this, masculine feet were like above the planet, and I had to like help bring the masculine soles of the feet down into the soil. And we hear about like women washing men's feet, but it was like I was planting men's feet, like, and that was as loving as washing their feet. It was like, please, like, come back down and in. So
Mm.
yeah,
That's
like
beautiful.
the
I
light
had
of
an
man and
image
soil.
recently of like, what if we had forests of men as opposed to fields of crosses? Wouldn't that be something, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's where we're going to. So the soil, because if we talk about all the false mind, all the programs, the soil was never programmed. There's no program in the soil. So you get your feet in there, the codes are there. So
Right.
it's to get ourselves into of the same mind as soil. That's the that's truly the correct mind of the organizing principle of life. To get our feet, to get our mind of the mind of soil, the same mind of womb. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go to the mind, um,
Yeah.
which is something that we talk about. And I was going to put this question out on Facebook the other day, and then we were talking about it. So, the words came out of my mouth, like I want examples of stories of men seeking out women's true wisdom, And then yesterday, a text came through to me, which I've already shared with Mary, but a man who I know, I think is probably on a soul grail king path. Like, he's a man on a mission, he's on his path. And I would not describe him, as anti-feminine consciously at all, and all men in my opinion are still deconstructing these programs about feeding off the feminine in some
Yeah.
way, so I'm very cautious about this. And so his text comes through and he said, I feel that I need to connect with a ley line in the area. I'm searching for ley lines, and I thought that, maybe you would have this intel. And, I was like, well, that is a very specific request, and that's very interesting. And then I kind of felt behind it, like, what is going on with this? Um, and I was like, oh, this is, like the feminine. I don't say I need to go find a ley line. I
Yeah.
hear in my body, Sarah, you need to go stand in this river.
Mm.
Or, Sarah, go offer roses in a town 20 minutes north. Like there's
Mm.
an intelligence in the land that calls me. It's like a magnetism between me
Yeah.
and land. And I would call that grid work. It's like when my feminine body and love and intention shows up on a piece of land and listens for the intel, listens for the directions, like put your whole body in the river or place roses or crystals or like whatever it's saying. There's an intelligence that I listen to, and that's enough for me. I don't have to know if there's an actual ley line that runs under that space, So I was like, okay, so maybe this is actually what he's asking for. So I shared a little bit about like, the way the feminine feels called to land. And I encouraged him to put his bare feet on the soil and listen for that. And then I was like, that text didn't quite do it. And then I actually said, your mind wants to know, KNOW, exactly where the ley lines are. The feminine doesn't work that way. Go put your feet in the soil and ask where you should go. Ask the mountains themselves where you are called. And then he got it. He was like, yes, this, I don't have to know with my mind, but I needed to spell that out,
Yeah.
for this wisdom to come through. So you and I have been talking about the different ways of knowing, and then also that the feminine, some of us have been cultivating these different ways of knowing. And also, we would like to be asked for our ways of knowing.
We
Like
would.
we're over here having a conversation between two women. Like, we come ask us.
You're so true. And what I would like, I will not be received at any price, at any cost. I ask that we are received with the words that we use, with the voice that we use. I don't want to have to learn a whole new language, a whole new layers of mental whatever it's called. All the different layers. I don't want to have to go through torrents if there's
Yeah.
this resistance towards me or frustration towards me, which I feel from the masculine sometimes. So I just ask that women would be received as we are and trusted as we actually are. So for a man to look to listen to us and feel frustration, in that moment he is placing himself above our creator and judging that we there's something wrong with us. We were created perfectly. There's nothing wrong with how we speak, how we feel, how we think, how we express ourselves. We were created in perfection, as every person is. So, and this goes two ways, obviously. We as women we both talked about this, pulled back and stopped kind of projecting onto the masculine what we think they should do
Yeah.
within their evolution with what they have to anchor. We have pulled back and stopped projecting. And even to the extent of really not offering help, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So there has
Yeah.
to be respect for each as they actually are, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more. Like,
Yeah.
I've said to Mary, it's almost like I've more and more just chosen to leave men alone.
Yeah.
And um I I welcome men to approach, to ask me what I know, to to ask for what they need in ways that are like beautiful and fair. The same as I would hope that I can still approach men. And there's just so many ways that I, as a woman, was like approached, allowed men in. They didn't understand how to respect it. It ended up becoming extractive, and there are so many ways that women also project onto men, even the projection of like, I'm gonna actually never really experienced that I was good. Like, I didn't want a man's money. I didn't feel like that, but it was like, security, resourcefulness in
Mm.
all the ways. So it was like, okay, you know, how am I approaching him so that my resources are growing instead of diminishing,
Yeah.
was essentially like my like the main kind of vibe, was like, and then I continually felt like the energetics were, or my feminine resources, like, weren't being respected and were being diminished. I'm a little off track here, but I'm trying to also own that there was a projection from my feminine,
Yeah.
wanting something from men, whether that be
Mm.
safety or respect or
Yeah.
amplification or resources,
Mm.
right? And so we've wanted these things from one another.
Yeah.
And it doesn't also mean that we can't experience the reciprocity and the give and take of the
Mm.
feminine. We're just, you know, mapping out our energetic experience of wanting to do that differently.
Yeah.
And so, in that, kind of in the wake of everything that I had experienced, I sort of more and more just left men alone.
Mm.
But also, my heart, I I welcomed men to come in a respectful way. And I
Yeah.
think that I'm still there, more and more, like, the longer it get, I'm like, okay, I'm a little lonely. Like, I do want masculine interaction, but I
Mm.
don't want the old games or energetics. I don't,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to like contort or change my feminine or
Mm.
downplay my wisdom in
Yeah.
order to be in a relationship with a man, professionally, romantically, anything,
Mm.
where my knowing that I have cultivated, my senses of knowing, loosely we call this feminine intuition, but it's much, much bigger than that. And there's absolutely no way that I'm going to give that up
Yeah.
to be in a
Mm.
relationship with a man. And in
Mm.
fact, like men who come to me through my work,
Mm.
they recognize that there's something that they need to learn or want
Yeah.
to learn. And really, that's the only open invitation right
Mm.
now that I've held it. It's like, I think my heart is longing for the men who realize that there's so much to learn from this feminine
Mm.
cultivated wisdom, like
Yeah.
this embodiment of the fullness of feminine. And it's ultimately what they long for so, so, so much, is like a cultivated
Yeah.
feminine. But in that false light, they also haven't known how to like even like articulate that. But then that's what ends up becoming consumptive. Like it
Yes.
feels consumptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't honor, or they don't know how to honor, or acknowledge our contribution,
Yeah.
truly not to them, our contribution to the evolution, to the world,
Yeah.
to humanity, which, and our contribution is as the carriage of evolution, and the
Yeah.
also the carriage, the womb involves the organization, the manifestation, the materialization of evolution. That's
Yes.
quite a large contribution. So,
To say
you
the
know,
least.
to say the least.
Yeah.
So, but as you say, so there isn't an honor of it, a recognition
Yeah.
of it, but there is still a need for it, which
Mm.
is kind of being accessed in ways that leave us depleted and leave us feeling like, why are there no kind words for me? Why is there no
Mm.
words of encouragement for me? If I speak to women, generally we encourage each other and there's a
Mhm.
kindness and we
Yeah.
are received. And I've heard from men who try to open their heart around men, they don't receive each other. They don't do that so much.
Mhm.
So that needs to, there's certain things like that which need to be allowed. And from our time in the shadow, when we were behind this pillar of false light, we have also learned exceptional perception skills. This is why women have the intuition that we have and the extrasensory perception, is because we had to make our way in the dark, truly, and we had to navigate so many obstacles. So, what I would say as well is it's so important that women's perceptions are listened to, not just the one that suits, that confirms something. Like
Mhm.
if a man has an idea and a woman can confirm that. It's not just that, it's the perceptions of women that aren't convenient, that are, you know,
True.
difficult to deal with. Yeah, they need to be given the same weight as the one that is liked. So there's also this
Mm.
thing I think we have felt as women where we are received at certain times and rejected at certain times. And it's all for the same qualities. So it's for our perception. As I say, if our perception is wanted in that moment to confirm something, we're
Mhm.
received. But if our perception is something that's going to cause movement or destruction, it's not wanted.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a program there which allows men to see women as expendable, as optional, as
Mhm.
replaceable as well. But
Fair enough.
newsflash to all the men, every woman is the same. So you will like, if they will, a woman, if they
Mhm.
are still, trying to find a way in and speak in a way to be appeasing and likable, every single time that woman will come to a place where she needs her voice heard and she needs to assert herself. So
Mhm.
that mask that women have of when entering into a relationship or entering into a situation and being appeasing and pleasant, that truly is a shadow mask. That is a mask that hopefully we are releasing now, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like this wants to be sad or
Mm.
maybe a repeat, but in a lot of, social media and sacred feminine, masculine, and polarity teachings, I see a lot of encouragement still for the woman to default to masculine consciousness, as though
Yeah.
masculine is consciousness, as though masculine has
Mm.
the direct line to God, as though um I had to pause because my tongue went "Bleh" in my mouth. Like I don't even want to be saying these words, but it's like
Yeah.
this, believe the masculine, or turn to the
Yeah.
masculine. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
masculine has wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
but I personally do not care for any more masculine wisdom that does not consider my own. Like,
Yes.
even, men talking about sacred feminine, sacred masculine,
Mm.
there's so much of that that I want to say, stop,
Yeah.
like, are you consumptive in your behavior of the feminine? If you're not listening to a woman, I can almost ensure that
Mm-hmm.
you're still wanting to somehow eat her up,
Yeah.
so there's like
Mm.
a consciousness
Mm.
um inside of women that is
Mhm.
not to be defaulted to man.
Mhm. Yes. Women have never been able to get away from their body because of our womb. So we have never had the full disembodiment, the full, trapped in the mental mind, in the whatever the words for it, I call it the traumatized mind because there's so many rules and programs and compartmentalizations. But if it's called a higher mind, so be it. We can leave it there for now. But women have never been able to escape the reality of their body because of our womb. Thankfully for that. So truly any information a man shares, any information, any wisdom a man shares, if it is not proved in the woman's body, it is meaningless. That is the truth. So anything
Yes.
that is imposed, any dogmatic, I know
Mm.
this is my intelligence, this is my wisdom, you have to receive me. This entitlement that has been drilled into this program that women have to receive men. Absolutely not. If a man's information, intelligence, wisdom, which is a beautiful blessing, and thank you for that, when that is shared, it is the woman's prerogative and responsibility to affirm that within her body or deny it. And that is her, because she is the magnetic center. And that has to be, it has to be that. Because we can't just
Brilliant.
keep recreating stuff that's coming out of people's psyche, stuff that's
Yeah.
coming out of programs. We can't just receive and recreate and hand them back the the next horrific timeline. That we have to be more responsible. We have to discern ourselves and trust our perceptions. We have never left our body because our womb is a magnetic center. So when it's offered to us, we need to affirm or deny it within our body because that's our responsibility. Um, yeah. So in that way, men will have to adapt to that understanding that they need to receive women also. Yeah.
That was brilliant. That right
Thank you.
there.
A bit fiery. A little bit fiery.
Please. Oh my gosh. That was brilliant. And something that you just said about false receptivity is
Yeah.
like, I'm like,
Yeah.
that is going to ring through
Mm,
me
yeah.
in a way that I can't particularly articulate right now, but it's that, like, this false, like, being forced to receive a
Yeah.
false masculine. And oh my gosh, we've been forced to receive a false masculine into our bodies,
Yes.
into our minds,
Mhm.
into, yeah. And
Exactly. And it's not even the true light of Father, which is what we want
right.
to see now. It's construct. So if it is coming from a program, and if someone doesn't know they have this program, we're all breaking out of it. So it's not even to judge the people who still have the program. We all have bits and pieces. We had to have a symbiotic relationship with all of these false things in order to survive. So we have parts of us have the mind of the predator. Parts of us have the mind of the false masculine or the false lunar feminine. So we are releasing them now. Um, but there's no valor whatsoever in what that, like you say, that false receptivity. That is truly a distortion. In nature, the only thing that surrenders in nature is shadow surrenders to light.
Mm.
So in that, with that intelligence, with that memory, truly, if a woman is devoted to surrendering, she is devoted to being of shadow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And whew,
Mm,
that,
yeah.
like being forced to receive
Mm,
something that is false
yeah.
is something that absolutely all women know. And I
Mm,
feel that that is such a beautiful, articulate way of saying like what it is that we are rejecting now.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's not rejecting the masculine. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this, yeah, yesterday I was having a conversation with my son and his father, who I've been separated from for a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up something of my wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my son began to reject it because it wasn't in the logic of the mind. This is a
Yeah.
conversation that my 15-year-old and I are having a lot these days.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said was, I can see that you are not ready to receive what I have to share,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I can see that. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to force it on you. I'm also not going to accept it was almost like this retaliation or something. I was like, I'm not accepting that as truth. I can see that we are not, ready to enter this space together where I can be received equally,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and bringing that language to the men, to the sons,
Yeah.
um, and I think one of the reasons that I brought up that example about the text with that man is like, he knew that there was a question to ask me,
Yeah.
and he was asking for knowledge. He was asking for
Mm.
knowing,
Yeah.
but beautifully, in this example, it's beautiful. I'm not critiquing, but it's like he didn't know how to ask for the wisdom of the feminine.
Yeah.
Like he knew to ask me, but he was asking for cognition,
Yeah.
not the wisdom of the feminine. So
Mm.
some education will be required.
Absolutely. And this beautiful mind of the mother, like you say, that knowing of the feminine, truly that will be integrated into everyone. We are anchoring that in new ways, in strengthened ways into the grid. And, the outcome of this is the unified central sun,
Yeah.
which involves the magnetic mind of mother, the organizing, knowing intelligence of woman.
Yeah.
So that is what I can see
Yeah.
as the outcome
Yeah.
of the anchoring that we're doing, and the clearing that we're doing, and the rejection of the false things that we're doing. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful
Mhm.
sign to know that that impulse came in him, to ask you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Right. We are looking and noting the evidence, right? As
Yeah.
we are sharing, we are noting the evidence of change. Um, so I want to move toward the topic of radiance. And um,
Yeah.
I keep having this vision. So as a segue, I wanted to share this vision. And I want to say that at this time where I see what we are doing as women, and we're
Mm.
tracking this journey of returning, the gold frequency of the soil and the proper magnetics, and like we're doing this. I have a faith and trust that men and masculine are doing their own thing. Like,
Yeah.
and if not right now, like I do think that women are going first, and that the energetic results of this are going to impact men. I do believe
Mm.
that. And also, you know, it's like if I have a divine counterpart out there,
Mm.
I would trust that he is also on his path. And it is not up to me to tell the masculine what the route of that path back to the heart is,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
there's this trust that this is occurring. And
Mm.
I keep having this vision of maybe it's myself or a woman, like the feminine with our feet in the soil, and I'm like down at the soil, and I'm being with this gold frequency in the soil, and I'm feeling the gold frequency, and I'm like tending it, and I'm bent over it, and I'm like closely tending to the gold and
Yeah.
to this whole evolution, right? Like I'm tending to the evolution, and like the masculine is like approaching from behind, and like curious, and what's she doing, and like he's there, and he's he masculine, man, masculine, all of it. It's like the orientation is not me standing too masculine saying, show me, and how are we going to make this divine union and make this all happen right now? It's like the woman is tending to the soil and to the gold frequency and to the evolution of life, and the man is like watching, or I don't know the word for that right there, but
Like
it's like,
curious. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
curious, and
Yeah.
like this is the proper orientation right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A curious is a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing because that is it's like the little footsteps of children, trying to
Yeah.
poke around and figure something out, and we are all to be like children. So that's a beautiful place to be in, is curiosity. So that fills me with hope for sure.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of humility and innocence to be curious,
It does.
because it
Yeah.
takes a feeling of, I don't know something and I want to know, so I'll have a little look. But that's actually a lovely thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's a little bit of that, protector. I mean, biologically, the masculine, it's like, yes, protect and provide. Like,
Yes, please.
yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, like we
Yeah,
need to exist as families, as trinities, as units, and
we truly do. Yeah.
so like all of those masculine qualities, like yes, please, and we will not be diminished. We will not
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
separated and turned toward this false light.
Mm.
So let's talk about radiance and filling with the
Yeah.
gold and
Oh, I had this beautiful, well, it was actually before sleep. It was just before sleep when I was in my channel, in the channel of mother, and my mother came forward and she had a golden cape and she placed it around me, and she left and I was just crying because I wanted her to come back. But anyway, I took my cape. I said, okay, what is this? And we were talking the next day, and as it started to integrate and embody, I realized what it was, what I was being told. And I was being told like the way of the mother's light, the internal light of woman, um, which will be of men also, because the light of woman is of everyone, because we all came from a mother. So the material, let's say the light in the body, is of mother, and the light in the soil is of mother. And I was told that the way the true light of the body, which is the light of the mother, which is the intelligence of that. The way that spreads is like a cloak of radiance. And the question was put to me, can you have the courage of radiance? Can you have the courage to be radiant?
Mm,
You know?
mm,
And what
mhm.
that radiance to me is like beauty, joy, exuberance, innocence, insistent. It's not all sweetness, obviously. It's just allowing what needs to come. From a place of, it almost feels like, when I think of well, who is the most radiant person I can think of? It would be a baby. Babies radiate light. Everyone is drawn to them. Everyone is running around after that baby. The world is centered on the baby.
And the
And the baby,
innocence, yeah,
yeah, and
like
the
through the
baby is
innocence.
it's the most magnetic person in that
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
So I was shown the magnetism, the true magnetism of us is radiance. So in order for us to feel the light of the body, the light of mother get stronger, and in order for us to get our true needs met, is, yeah, radiance, and that's how the magnetism of the mother looks like in our bodies. Yeah.
Yes. And so um to be like maybe overly explicit with the words. um, one of the other things we were told is that feminine radiance comes through emanating the light of the masculine.
Okay.
This is like a spiritual or like a, sacred feminine, sacred masculine sort of teaching.
Okay.
And, so it's like take in that light of
Yeah.
masculine and of Holy Father and emanate it back out, and that's
Yeah.
radiance. And
Oh.
so,
Hmm.
yeah, have you heard that?
No, but that doesn't make
Mm.
sense at all.
Right, right. So here we are, like back to the false light,
Yeah.
um, and women trying to like figure out how to get right with the masculine, with the Holy Father, so that they can emanate the
Mm.
light of the Christos back out. It's like swallowing the masculine and like beaming it from the inside or something.
That's
You
that
know, I've
sounds
tried that.
terrible.
I've tried that. I've tried all that false
Oh my
receptivity in all the ways. Yeah, right. Right. And yeah, it feels
Yeah.
rather
Oh wow.
forced, like which masculine is going to be like the brightest so that I can take that in and then shine it back out. It's like eek. Um, so
Mm,
let's go further into like the gold
mm.
frequency
Yeah.
and how that feels like the emanation of this gold frequency,
Yeah.
in the soil of the
Mm,
mother, and how and personally, as we approach this 8-week container called resource, my journey right now is like, okay, the gold frequency and the source frequency is like,
mm,
you know um running through the body that I am, right?
mm,
Like as one, like the source frequency somehow amplifies the gold frequency,
mm,
and like I feel the harmonic of who I am, like strengthening,
mm.
and becoming more radiant. Like this is,
Yeah.
I guess, my energetic exploration of the radiance
Mm.
coming from this gold frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, how would you kind of describe that more?
Yeah. It's like I love this conversation because it's just helping me, clarify all of these beautiful images and knowings that I have. But the talking just helps so much to,
Yeah,
embody.
me
What I
too. Yeah.
see is like even the word radiate, it makes me, because it's kind of like it feels like a vibration, like it's radiating. It's like to me the light of mother is the magnetic light that radiates. And this is the only way I can prove this is when I think of babies and I think of they're filled with the light of mother. They're just out of the
Mm,
womb and they are the most radiant, the most magnetic of all people. And then the light of Father is like the energizing, electrifying light,
yeah.
animating light. That's and those
Mm,
are
mm,
obviously. we are to have both,
Yeah.
but we need to truly, the light of mother, the golden light, is being strengthened. And I would hope and presume that on the other side of things, the light of father is receiving the
Yeah.
same treatment,
Right.
because we have to have these things clarified and restored before
Hmm.
we can talk about harmonizing
Right.
truly, because we don't, any kind of co-joining without true honor is just entanglement. So
Yes.
we're just clarifying to the point of resonance, so we can harmonize through resonance, um with complete channels of light, you know
Yeah. Right.
so
And
yeah.
yes, and that harmonic, like for me, the harmonic comes from the gold frequency in the soil. It's like this,
Mm,
feminine growing upward. Like I
yeah,
sent you that just a slow motion of like, the plant, like it roots down into the soil and then goes
yeah.
upward. And that's how I'm seeing woman, like
Mm,
resourced from the soil and from this gold frequency in the soil, and
yeah,
then being this um you know like pillar of magnetism,
yeah,
and these electrification kind of frequencies, like it's like the
mm,
more this pillar is electrified, the stronger the harmonic
yeah,
becomes,
yeah,
so receiving that Holy Father essence, what did you say? Animating light. That's so
mm,
beautiful. Like receiving that into this magnifying essence of the gold frequency of the feminine. Like
yeah,
it feels like it erects, my energetic channel as like,
mm,
you know, the conduit between heaven and earth. That's what we are.
yeah,
Like that's what we are. But
yeah,
um we haven't been connected into the proper like grids. I think once upon a time
yeah,
those grids existed, and then they were
mm,
usurped and corrupted, and
mm,
that golden magnetic frequency distorted
mm,
into the lunar feminine frequency. And so here we are, like reconnecting to the gold in the soil,
mm,
and that is creating this organization,
yeah,
in
yeah,
our personal harmonics that create these,
yeah. It's like,
global harmonics.
yeah, it's what you say is true. We are the light inside. The woman's light, let's say the mother's light, is the magnetic light, and it builds form and it creates matter, and it materializes. So this is why, and I speak of the mind of the soil just to say that that's always there, that is still there, never been touched. But what I really truly want to say about that is that our womb is asked to come into the consciousness of the soil, to
Yes.
have the same frequency of the soil, which is that golden magnetic mind. So our mind is so incredibly important. The intelligence of women, the knowing of women, the knowing of what's needed from women, but also the ability to create matter, to create space. And now with the golden magnetics, every space we create is sacred, truly is held. That is the magnetic center. So the mind of woman, the mind of the womb, the mind of the soil cannot be cast aside anymore in order to appease or benefit from, or whatever, entangle with any other mind. The true mind of creation is the mind of the soil, is the mind of the womb. It creates the the form, to be animated, that is to be brought to life. So we have that inherent in us. And if we could talk about, what people term the higher mind, I would be interested to talk about that. My observations of that being more akin to like a traumatized mind at this moment. if we could talk to that.
Yeah, and before we move to that, I just as I was listening to you, I wanted to add that, back to why we're having this conversation and this
Mm,
orientation to false masculine, or this question that I was always asking myself, like, how do we, resource ourselves?
yeah.
Um, so the kind of recipe that we had in this old structure of consciousness of
Mm-hmm.
orientation to false light or false masculine was, as a woman, I can
Mm-hmm.
either, bend to whatever the masculine is doing so that it provides for me,
Mm-hmm.
or I can emulate the false masculine and go out and work hard and receive
Yeah.
resources that way. It was like those were the only two
There's one
templates.
more.
Oh,
There's
go ahead.
there's one more. Or that we could create emotional chaos,
Yeah.
be of emotional chaos, or just chaos, and pull energy to us that way. And
I was,
that's a
yes, I was including that in part A, but yes,
oh, sorry.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so it could
Mm,
look like submission in Pretty Little Feminine, or it could look
yeah.
like chaos. Yes.
Chaos and emotional dysregulation, using emotions to attack.
Yeah.
Um, so we are emotional, but our emotions as a form of attack, that's abuse.
Yeah.
But we have been, maybe um, i- i- trained to believe that that's an okay part of womanhood. But truly, that is of the lunar, the
Yeah.
false control over our emotions, over our water. They became something we couldn't control. We have order over our emotions. We're not lunatics. That's the word, right? And
Mm,
these
mm,
chaotic beings. We're
mm.
not that, and we don't need a man to put order over our emotions. That's
Correct.
not
Yes.
necessary.
Right.
The ordering of our emotions comes from the light of mother, the golden magnetic, which is harnessing the water, harnessing the emotions now. The
Mhm.
water is the body of emotion. So, and the emotions are a beautiful thing.
Mm.
They are the momentum behind creation. So truly think of the power in that, the
Right.
difference. When we have this intelligence mind, this womb mind, which holds our emotional, our water body, and allows us to
Hmm.
channel it for creation. That's a big difference to, the chaotic, emotionally dysregulated, attacking woman who needs order from on high. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. And the
yeah,
water is the like the magnetizing energetic. So you have the
yeah.
matter, and then you
Mm,
have like the receptivity of this animated light, and you need the
yeah,
water to like mix that up,
yeah,
to bring those together, to kind of like
yeah.
harmonize that. Excuse me. So yes, okay, wonderful. So I wanted to put that there for,
Mm,
for women's resourcefulness, which I'm
yeah.
so passionate about,
Mm,
and like mapping this new way.
mm,
I wanted to put that over there in that section where we were talking about the
yeah,
golden magnetic and the soil.
yeah.
And okay, and so now moving on to higher mind.
Yeah, and just before we do that, what I would say the answer, and I think we've said this before, the intelligence that will tell women what to do next, the intelligence that will show us where our resources come from, is of the womb mind. It's of that connected
Yeah.
consciousness, the natural mind.
Yeah.
We don't have a place of honor and wholeness within the traumatized, fragmented mind.
Right.
Even what some people call the higher mind often involves women to really not truly be who they are. Um, so yeah, we should dig deeper into that higher mind thing, the
Okay.
traumatized mind. Like just what I have found, um, when I'm expressing myself from my natural mind, which is my womb mind, which is my truly my source of everything that I speak, you know. I often have been, told we're supposed to believe this. Everyone knows this. Things like of that nature, like, aren't we supposed to be this? Aren't we supposed to know this? And these kind of spiritual dogmas that we're all supposed to have agreed upon. And
Mm.
somehow I missed the memo and I haven't agreed. You know, so, and so then I'm told, well, there's this ladder, right? There's a ladder to get to the higher mind, and you're supposed to climb this ladder. Part of it isn't like, don't eat junk food, don't whatever, smoke cigarettes or whatever. Like there's a lot of things, right? You're not supposed to do to get to this place of elevation. And that was just two examples, but even like you're not supposed to think negatively, right? You're not supposed
Always
to have
positive. Yeah.
bad feelings. Yeah, you don't have bad
Mhm.
feelings. Even if it's true, don't have them.
Just bypass
So
it. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, just and also when I've been told a few times that my heart is too soft. My heart is kind
Mm.
of surplus to requirements. My emotions are surplus to requirements. So, in order to
Mm.
get to the higher mind, it feels like I have to give up my natural mind. It
Mm.
feels like I have to give up my emotional strength and a
Mm.
depth. It feels like I have to give up the things I truly know in my body
Yeah.
in order to be able to agree with the stuff I'm told is of the higher mind. So it brings me to believe, possibly, is the higher mind more so a set of programs and agreements like trauma responses that we have held together in order,
Mm.
like a network that we are sustaining in order to have gotten through that trauma, the trauma of being
Mm.
disembodied, the trauma of being cut off from our natural mind, the trauma of having the mother destroyed. Have we, instead of being held in the womb in the natural mind, have we, when that was taken from us, is this higher mind actually a traumatized mind? Because there's so many things you're not allowed to say. There's so many things you're not allowed to be. There's so many emotions aren't allowed there. You know, there's so
Yeah.
much, yeah, compartmentalization. Mm.
What I was just picturing as you were sharing was, we have religious dogma that tells
Mm.
us to go up to find
Yeah.
God,
Mm-hmm.
and that men and the ideas of men were going to have access to that first,
Yeah.
right? And that we had to go like beyond the body to get to
Mhm.
God, right?
Yeah.
And so as you were talking, it was just like, New Age just kind of moved that whole way, that whole energetic, foundation over to love and light, so that
Yeah.
it like replaced dominating masculine controlling godhead notion of religion,
Mm-hmm.
and like escaped that, but brought over the same overlay of
Mm.
you have to ascend in
Yeah.
order to get to the light. You have
So
to
true. Mm.
only have positive thoughts in order
Mm-hmm.
to have what you need. If you
Yeah.
think the positive thoughts over and over again, somehow the sky is going to drop your material possessions
Yeah.
that you need,
Mm.
in front of you. And
Yeah.
so I imagine that many women are like, I'm trying this, but it doesn't fucking compute. Like, what? Like
Yeah.
manifestation, like what?
Mm.
How? Like, how, if I think the good thoughts and I behave well and I ascend, is my
Mm.
material life in a body on this earth
Yeah.
going to be made manifest
Yeah.
in a good way?
Yeah.
But then we also have, sorry, I'm now on a roll, because then through there, we still have the feminine being absolutely distorted, like the earth and
Mhm.
feminine energy being taken advantage of, because then women are buying into, you know, well, if I play in this manifestation game, then I can
Yeah.
have anything I want.
Yeah.
And the behavior of women
Mm.
ourselves is very consumptive.
Yeah.
When we think, well, I can just have anything I want. I can have 4 designer handbags. I can have a big house, I can have material items without thinking about the integrity of nature. It's
Mm,
women cutting ourselves off from the body and from the tendency to consume and exploit
mm.
that which is feminine, that which is earth, that which is soil.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so true. And those tricks of this, the manifestation from the psychic realm, they can work, right? They can get you the handbag and things like that. But if we're there and we have decided that the heart doesn't belong, the womb doesn't belong, then we're asking for really hollow things,
For
without
sure.
so
Mhm.
we have cut off the codes in our heart and our womb, the true depth of what we want as women, as responsible carriages of creation.
Mm.
We're getting a little crumb, we're getting a pat on the head for
Yeah.
being in the psychic realm, for playing the games, for using that artificial mind matrix in order to, get the handbag or whatever it is we want. So we can manifest from that place, but it takes us out of our body and out of what we're here to actually do. And just I want to say something about the return to the centralized intelligence system. So our whole system is reconfiguring. And this is being done at the behest, is that a word? Behest of the Golden Mother. This is a directive. And
Mm.
there are whales, eternal whales within the
Mm.
channel of Mother, within the channel of the water of creation helping. And a friend of mine pointed out that the belly button, all of the meridian lines begin and end on the belly button.
Mm.
And um, what is happening. So that would tell me that would mean that is where your mind is, the center of
Mhm.
your mind is. If you're all of your electrics go there
Mm.
and begin there. Um, but there is a kind of like an umbilical reconnection
Mhm.
so that we can be brought back to the true mind of mother. So when we are
Mm.
connected umbilically to our mother, it's a symbiotic knowing. So we have had a false symbiosis with the predator, right? Which it makes
Yeah.
us want to
Right.
manifest the handbag, makes us
Right.
want to manifest whatever the golden ring, or who cares about anything else? So we are being brought now into this symbiotic knowing of the true mother again, with the aid of these eternal whales who work in that channel.
Mm.
So what I have been shown and all I can know is that the central mind is the mind, the womb, the natural mind is the mind that is going to be manifesting, leading, ordering, organizing what's needed. Every other faculty can then help and serve that, but that will be the center. So that's a huge, and it's when people, that ladder thing where the to get to God was to go higher.
Mhm.
So woman is the body of God, like
Mhm.
woman is the body of
Mm.
God.
Mm. Mm.
So as we are coming back to our bodies and we were healing all that trauma, um, men will have these abilities too, the
Mm.
abilities of the intuition. They will have the body of God too.
Mm.
It's just us as women, we weren't able to get away from it because of our wounds. So that's just why our voices are important at the moment and our
Mhm.
anchoring is important at the moment because we could never truly be programmed because the number one program of mother is the cry of a child. So above all
Mm.
else, whatever happens, whatever you're supposed to do, whatever time it is, whatever place you're supposed to be,
Mhm.
the cry of the child is always going to be the number one trigger for women
Mm.
because of our womb, because of our presence as mother.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Mm. I think before we conclude, and please add anything you want to add,
yeah,
uh, you have also been talking about the masculine heart.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
wondering if you want to add anything about the masculine heart.
Sure. I have just seen a couple of times this unfolding rose, concentric,
Mm,
red. Um, I would call it like the architecture of the heart.
mm,
And I got this message not too long ago that the Christed heart, the grid was ready for the Christed hearts.
mm, mm,
And okay, so the Christed heart. Now I don't know that this is just men or not women. I'm thinking of one man in particular and another man. So this has been of men that I have seen. I have seen that this man in particular, his heart is pure compassion. He's not able to do anything else. He's not able to convince himself out of his heart. He's just not
mm,
physically able. So in that he has a certain innocence and a vulnerability. And he was kind of kept out of life. He was in a long-term home where he was separate from life. And he was okay, that was his place for that time. But it feels like he's moving out of that place now. And it feels to me that is a huge sign to me that that deeply compassionate, powerful heart, Christed heart, like the heart of Jesus, um, is is able to be received by the grid, by the consciousness grid. And that is powerful because the impulse of that heart is compassion. The electrical impulse will always be compassion
yeah.
from that person. So that person who holds that, there are many who hold it in a dormant way, who have been able to somehow, you know, um, render it dormant so they can function. But for the people who haven't been able to make it dormant, I'm just thinking of this one person in particular. He's just a primary illustration of it all. But this is across the board. Once he is in the grid again, and he's coming back into the grid, he's leaving the place where he was somewhat isolated from reality, and he's coming back into an everyday, normal, functional life. Um, I would just imagine the ocean of love and tenderness and compassion that comes from him, and the heart being
Mm,
the electromagnetic center. And this grid that we are in now only receives
yeah.
the only electrical impulse it will receive is that of the heart. It will not receive
Mm,
anything else. So this is why people are losing their minds and people are
beautiful.
trying to
Hmm.
make people agree with them because they cannot find their way into the grid with the false electrics anymore. So
Yeah.
the heart is the point of electrical impulse into the grid. And
Mm, mm,
yeah, that's what I've seen and I wonder why there has been such a price on men's hearts. I think it's
yeah.
certainly true that women were rendered mindless and men were rendered heartless.
You're right.
And I would say the mind of woman is the womb, the natural mind. That's what I would say. Um, and I would just say I can't wait to see, and I have seen it some bit, the heart of man light up the world, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
So beautiful. And I'm energetically going back to the connection that we made earlier with like the man's like this essence of man returning to soil. And Sophie
Yeah.
Strand in her book really talking about like the return of the earthly
Mm.
masculine, like, Yeshua, this Christed being was
Mm.
central in his heart between heaven and earth, and like held the um magna electromagnification of feminine masculine, like held the union
Mm.
coding like in who he was. And so yeah, this, I think you said maybe before we even started recording, like the crucifixion, taking him
Mm.
up off of the earth and putting him on the
Yeah.
cross, like separating from the cross. And then you said you've seen like a forest of men instead of a forest of crosses. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just so gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder, because I know we're using these as examples of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, right?
Mhm.
It was all about his heart. and it
Yeah.
truly was all about her womb.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I wonder, is that the mind? Is the womb going to be, or is supposed to be, the mind of this evolution, and the heart of man is the electrical power behind
Right.
that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just something to consider. That's very different to what they tell you. They tell you this: the mind is man, and it's a
Right.
puritanical, a restrictive mind.
Right.
The womb is not restrictive. The womb mind envelops everything. It has an intrinsic compassion, not because it's trying to be kind, because it knows the only way for survival is to absorb everything.
Mhm.
So to me, that is the superior mind. That is our superior mind present. The highest mind possible is the womb mind. And I wonder, and as I say it, I believe it, that that will be the mind of our evolution, and the heart of man, the sacred, compassionate heart of man, will be the electrical charge and emotional momentum behind that. Mm.
I love that.
Mm.
I love that. Yeah,
That's a
this
big change.
it's a big change. And yeah, for all that we've said as two women talking about men in
Yeah.
this conversation, there's just this
Mm.
um faith and trust, like,
Mm.
in men, masculine, like coming back into the space of the Christed heart,
Yeah.
with their feet on the earth, like, and whatever their map, whatever their journey, like their particular map of
Mm.
evolution, of returning, of remembering is, I look forward to a man telling me what that journey was for him. Like, I love a good map, as you know, as some know. It's like, how do we do this? I want to map it out. And so it's like this map for the masculine. I want that Christed man to tell
Mm.
me what his map is,
Yeah.
and
Beautiful.
like this partnership, like, okay,
Mm.
here's this woman's way of remembering and returning, and like, it's like, what you got, like, let's share the codes of this evolution, like,
Mm.
in partnership, none, superior, like,
Yeah.
over the other.
Mm.
And yet, I love how you use the word insistence. And I love how
Yeah.
insistent you are, like, as a woman, and clear in your
Yeah.
insistence, because there will be nothing else will do at this
Yes.
time. Like, I
Mhm.
cannot allow another man into my life, into body, into my feminine system, if he's not
Yeah.
also there, right? And
Yeah.
so there's this, like, requirement of
Yeah.
this evolutionary path,
Mhm.
um, for true partnership, like these distorted, like, notions of sacred union inside
Yeah.
of this false thing is, like,
Mm.
not,
No.
it ends
I
in pain
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. I truly believe the way we will know them, the way when they
Mm.
come to the door,
Yes, how will we know
the way
them?
we will know, the way we will know them,
Mm.
because we need to know. Of course, we need to know because we've had too much of, you know, the wrong thing, and we
Yeah,
thought
right.
this is it, this is beautiful, and then it's not. I feel like the way we will know them is they will truly lead with their
Mhm.
heart, and
Yeah,
they will have, because I believe that's the pinnacle of their evolution.
yeah,
They will, whatever their journey is, I do believe that the finish line of it and the beginning of heaven on earth
yeah,
is for them to realize that their heart is truly the only way.
yeah,
And I believe we will hear it in their voice. They will
yeah,
have a tenderness in their voice, and we will see it in their eyes. They will have light and kindness in their eyes. And that's it. That's what
yeah.
I'll be looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing that I will be, doing and checking myself as a woman is, like, when that text came through,
Mm.
there was also like a bitterness of, like,
Mm.
you want something from me.
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my, like,
Mm-hmm.
edge, or like that's mine as a woman to take responsibility for, and to not perpetuate that thinking like, well, you've got to prove yourself to me
Me
now,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Because that would not be
Mm.
healthy. That would not be of the
I
mother's
hear you.
love.
No, I fully hear you, but
Yeah.
I think I fully hear you, and I have that in me too, for sure. But I do believe though, as well as that, that our bodies, that we can trust our body's perception.
Yeah.
So whatever comes, whoever comes, our bodies should, when we keep bringing our womb mind to its
Yeah.
fullness, to its full connectivity, keep trusting our perceptions, our creations. I think we will be able to trust our perceptions. So it's sometimes, of course, it's just a program within us that snaps, but sometimes it's our body, telling us there's
Yeah.
something else going on here. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And staying like slow and soft and curious,
Yeah.
and connected to the womb mind, connected to
Yeah.
our sovereign source energetics, and
Mm.
yeah, and being discerning in that felt sense of
Yeah.
woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so, so much, Mary, for
Wow,
coming.
Sarah. We said so many new things.
I know. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, we need to be listening to the women. This is what
Yeah.
we're saying to one another on Telegram.
Really
Like,
true. Yeah.
let's listen to, and it's like, well, let's have a conversation and put it out into the world, and people can listen to it. And, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have
um,
to, that is something that men have in buckets, is courage. Often, very often,
yeah,
they have courage. Um, what I would say for women's courage at this place is that women don't have a very strong ego. We more so, again, because of the womb has kept a lot of things away from us. And one of the things is ego. We don't have as much
yeah,
ego. And I'm not saying that ego is a bad thing or it's the reason why men have courage, but I'm saying it certainly is the reason why women don't have courage.
there's some of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
So we need to have the courage of radiance. That's our option. We don't have the option to have the courage of ego because we don't have enough of it. We need
Yeah.
to have the courage of radiance. And I would say the same for men. I hear men speaking from the heart, and that's not ego, that's courage of the heart, you know? So, and I love that. So we need to have courage of the heart and courage of radiance, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sharing, and that's what Sacred Remembering has always been about, like,
Yeah.
elevating women's voices, and our pathways of discovering our
Mm.
gnosis,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
giving women a space to, sometimes we need to practice. Sometimes we
Mm.
need to, like, just have the space with other women where it's like, I'm intuiting this and I'm intuiting that. And then, like, we're,
Mm.
yeah, learning a different way,
Mm.
like, giving ourselves different permissions as women. Like, I know that when I was a school teacher in my 20s,
Mm.
the perception was you have to know the subject matter in and out in
Yeah.
order to teach it. And if a student
Mm.
asked you something that you didn't know the answer to, then you weren't a good teacher because you were supposed to be the expert of a
Mm.
subject,
Yeah.
So unlearning that way of, like,
Yeah.
memorization and regurgitation, and then,
Mm.
becoming like, uh, remembering myself as a
Mm.
mystical woman, as a channel. And
Yeah.
we were recently talking about this as well, like in sessions, learning to trust the things that were coming through. Like,
Mm.
that's where some of the biggest remembering and remembering of the self was happening. And, like, the ego could look at what's happening in sessions and be like, oh my gosh, I can do that, but like as women who are remembering, like we don't choose to do that. It's like,
Yeah.
these feminine superpowers of like, yeah, that just happened in a session. It did. And the ego doesn't need to grasp and relay that.
Yeah.
We're like more and more um able as time moves on, as our evolution moves forward, to acknowledge like the deep, deep, true magic, true, yeah, like that we are these conduits of creational reorganization, you
Yes. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, holy moly,
Yeah.
that's humbling. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's service.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you and I get into sessions with people, it's like we'll help you to reorganize the energetic structure of your life according to creation.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's a service. That's like, and so we come to one another more and more in service,
Yeah.
more and more like, you know, how, how do I help this blessed planet? Like,
Yeah.
while I'm on it. Right?
Yeah, I think, and when that's the intention, you don't have as much time to be self-conscious or to
Right.
doubt yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
and that's truly, if you have that intention of it's just coming from love, responsibility, and I want to help, you don't have the luxury. You have to give up the luxury of self-doubt. And at
Yeah.
some stage, every woman has to do that. Every woman has to decide they want to step out from the shadows and give up the self doubt, the negative self talk,
Yeah.
even though those things might still swirl around. But that's not your voice. Those things aren't your voice. The inner
Yeah.
light, you can trust your inner light. You can trust yourself as a channel of light information directly from the mother. And the light of mother is already in your body. So it's just about getting it going and believing
Right.
in it and radiating it and ordering
Right.
it in the correct magnetic, and your whole body becomes of mother again.
And
And I would
strengthening
say,
that gold
yeah,
frequency. Yes, please keep
yeah.
going. Strengthening the
And
gold frequency.
for any women who want to talk, just don't expect to be affirmed. That's the number one thing.
Right. That.
Like you said, yeah, that programming you got as a teacher is so destructive to free speech. Don't expect to be affirmed. There's no guarantee you will be. And be comfortable with having the last word and be comfortable with just saying something and you can't hear a pin drop. It's a beautiful thing. It's because people's brains are rearranging. It's not that they're judging you or rejecting you. It's that perhaps you're saying something so different or ancient,
Yeah.
that they're having to take a moment to rearrange. So
Yeah.
your affirmation has to come from higher. Access your full channel and let your affirmation come from your mother, your grandmother, the first mother, the eternal grandmothers, you know?
Yes. And this is like too good not to mention, because before we hit record, we were talking about the false reflections of others
Oh,
and
yeah.
this theme. And this is, pretty much the theme here that I'm presently walking through, kind of through this eclipse portal. And what you just articulated is so much of what resource is about, this 8-week portal that we're going into. And so much of my personal evolution right now is exactly this. And Carolyn Lara asked a question of, who are you allowing to, um, like, whose impression are you allowing to have an impression of your own life? I don't know that I said that well, but like, whose opinion are you allowing to matter? And I love how you just said, don't expect to be
Yeah.
necessarily validated for these newer ideas, but these ancient remembrances.
Yeah.
And as we're standing in the gold frequency, like being lit up in this harmonic from this mother, from like the gold frequency, and being sourced through that, then we have to let go of shadow reflection. It's
Mm.
like, we can choose to mimic and play by the rules and like be validated in a shadow distortion.
Yeah.
Or, when I talk about standing in the truth of who you are, I say that all the
Mhm.
time on this podcast, everywhere I go. And it's like I'm getting, a spoonful of my own medicine around that
Mm.
right now, because it's like, where have I dimmed that and not stood in my golden harmonic in order to have a validation in someone else's reflection,
Yeah.
and they're not even realizing or understanding the things that I'm saying or could potentially say,
Mm.
so which is why we have conversations like this, and with people who are also able to, have the conversations, and also able to um see us in that genuine intelligence of who we are and
Yeah.
reflect, so that that shines brighter,
Mm.
not so that, power can be usurped or someone can
Yeah.
feel, like they know more. Um, yeah, what would you add to that? In conclusion,
There's something kind of
we'll
something
go
kind of
on forever.
cheeky. Yeah, just have
Yeah,
a cheeky little thing. So, this concept that men hold space for women, right?
yeah.
Come on. So, really, that is so restrictive. So, if he doesn't hold the space, I don't
Right.
get space?
Then I don't.
Absolutely not.
Or that the
Women,
feminine can only fill that much space.
exactly. What if it's
Yeah.
only a little box,
Yeah.
Like, women create space. This is what we do. We
Yeah, we're
have
the
the
earth.
actual functional capability of creating space
Yeah.
and holding the space, a golden magnetic. So create your own space and
Yeah.
speak into it.
Yeah.
And men, if they choose to, align with you, they will have to scramble and rearrange in order to
Yeah.
um, not hold space for you, to align with you if they choose to align with you. But I would
Yeah.
rather risk that, create my own space, and hope that a man may align with me, than fill a box that he has on his lap, with my name on it.
Jesus.
Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
No more. But,
No.
as you were saying that, it's like, as you stand in the golden harmonic, right? You were saying that the man's heart will be the force of the
Yeah.
electrification.
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that golden harmonic of you in your truth is the magnetism,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Ta-da! We
Ta-da!
can put a
We
bow
got
on
it.
it right there. Yeah,
We
we got
found it.
it. Awesome. Okay.
That's
Well,
amazing.
amazing. I love you, Mary. Thank you for being
Thank you
here.
so much, Sarah. We have learned so much today. I'm so excited to let this embody.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah,
And yeah, anyone listening can reach out to either one of us, Mary Costello
yeah,
on Facebook. And yeah, be in touch, everyone. Just connect, and we'll form bigger circles of more voices of women.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mary.